Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, guys, and YouTube land. Welcome to my channel, Win with Will. My name is Will. And today, July 6th, we're going to do a deeper dive into my funds. I promised when I released my first week's video showing my progress that I would go back and create a video showing more details about the various funds that I've purchased for my portfolio and why I chose those funds. I started out with weekly paying high yield dividends. And typically the reason that I went with weekly paying is because I felt as though getting paid more frequently will allow me to compound my earnings and build up my account even faster and faster. So let's go ahead and get into it. This quote here from legendary Hall of Fame football coach Vince Lombardi. Gentlemen, this is a football. It was said that he would start each season holding up a football to the team, and this was basically to symbolize that we're going to start with the basics every single year to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I promise to do that as well with my channel for people that may be very new and never even invested in stocks at all. To people that are more experienced that maybe just want to look at some of these various funds to see how they're doing for me. So I can kind of be your guinea pig. You can follow along with me, see how these things are doing, and see if it's something that you feel like would be a good fit for you. But keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, and my channel is for entertainment and education, and it's just allowing you to track my journey and see, how these things are doing for me, and also just to be able to track and follow along with me for support in my progress. Now, these are the various funds that I own. All of the funds that I own are what are considered high yield dividend funds. All of my funds that I started with week one are weekly paying. And then in my week two, I did go ahead and grab my first monthly paying fund, which is MSTY. And MSTY is a very popular fund. If you go through YouTube, you'll see 50 million videos of people talking about MSTY and the ups and downs, and is it a good option, is it a bad option. I wanted to wait until it was time for the payout for MSTY. Since it's only once a month, I didn't want to put my money in when I first started. I wanted to wait until it was time for it to pay out. So I jumped in my week two, and the payout for MSTY was on July 3rd. So we're going to go into each of the funds. We'll look at the charts. We'll look at the dividend amounts that they've been paying out. And again, I'll tell you why I started with each one. But first, ladies and gentlemen, this is a football. So we'll start with the very beginning, which is what is a stock. I'm going to talk to you guys as if I was talking to my daughter, who's in third grade, explaining some of these, the very basics, right? A stock, also known as an equity or share, represents ownership in a company. When you buy a stock, you become a shareholder owning a portion of that company. And I'm pretty sure this portion is something that a lot of people didn't know, that when you buy a stock, it gives you ownership of the company. And it gives you certain rights, like the potential to receive dividends, which is a big reason of why I chose the funds that I chose, is being a dividends investor, or sharing the company's profits and the ability to vote on certain company matters. Typically, you have to have a large amount of shares of a company to be involved in the voting, but again, this is what stocks give you the power to do. And most people get involved with stocks for these two reasons. Number one, capital gains, selling your shares for a higher price than you bought them, which is where we all heard the term buy low, sell high. You buy your stocks, you try to find them at a good price when the stock is down, and in hopes that the price will go up and up and up, and you'll be able to profit off of the increase in the price of the actual stock. And then dividends, which is my main strategy, receiving a portion of the company's profits if the company chooses to distribute them to shareholders. All stocks do not give out dividends, but I probably would not get involved with any that do not. It's just because it's like the gravy, right? We all love the steak and the potatoes, but the dividends for some people is the gravy, where your main objective is the gain of the stock and having the price go up and you earn your money that way. But taking that gravy, which is where they give out a dividend on top of that, where you're getting a little bit every month, every week, every quarter, every 6 months, every 1 year. All companies and funds operate a little differently. But again, most of the ones that I started with were paying weekly dividends, and I like that to be able to generate a consistent earning. And then keep in mind with stocks, there's risk and reward because prices can go down. They can go up, which is the hope, but they can also go down. And so generally, stocks are considered a higher risk, higher reward investment compared to things like bonds where you're going to have a stable, small amount that you can just count on every single year. Next, let's take a look at what is an ETF because this is what I'm invested in. So, an exchange traded fund or ETF is an investment fund that owns a collection of assets like stocks or bonds and is traded on a stock exchange like an individual stock is. ETFs offer diversification by bundling multiple investments into one, allowing investors to easily invest in a variety of assets with a single purchase. So think of ETFs as if you were shopping at Walmart, right? And you're going down the aisle and you're looking for jelly. Now, you can go down the aisle, pick your favorite jelly, which is your typical stock investment. Or you may just say, you know what? I'm not sure which jelly I'm going to like the best, so I'm going to purchase the whole aisle. And that's kind of the idea behind ETFs. It gives you the ability to purchase groups of stocks. There are ETFs that follow one stock, like I have some that maybe follow Tesla and things like that, where it gives you the ability to invest in the actual stock without purchasing the real stock of Tesla per se, where Tesla may be $300 a share and pretty pricey for the average person to be able to buy a bunch of shares. But the fund that I'm in that mirrors Tesla, it gives you the ups and downs of if you were purchasing Tesla without having to have so much money, but it also pays out a dividend every week, which is why I got into that one. But again, what is an ETF? Essentially a basket of securities like stocks, bonds, or commodities that trade on the exchanges, and investors buy and sell ETF shares on the stock market just like individual stocks, and the price of an ETF fluctuates throughout the day, reflecting the changing values of its underlying assets. Meaning, if you've got like for example that you can buy an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, which are the top 500 biggest businesses that are all trading on the stock market. So it gives you a little bit more security because what's the chances of all 500 companies having a bad day, bad week, bad year, and tumbling the price way, way down? So it just helps increase your chances of your money growing and not being in as much risk as working with just one stock that may have huge swings, ups and downs. So for some people, they like to buy ETFs to have a little bit more security in their investing, and it gives you the ability to diversify your money a little easier than just buying one stock here or there with tying all of your money into one basket. So let's take a look at the funds that I have. One of the funds that I have is called YieldMax, and again, this is all of these are going to be weekly pairs except one, and I'll show you which one is the monthly pair. But the price of YieldMax is last price before closing was $13.75, and you'll see a common theme with the various funds that I have. Over the last year, the price of YieldMax has significantly dropped down from upwards of around $20 per share all the way down to about $13 or so, which is the price when I got involved. The reason that I feel this is good for me is because I did not have the stock and in the time that it dropped down. This is a big reason why a lot of people are not very high on high yield ETF funds, is because of what's called NAV erosion, which is the actual price of the stock can go down over time as they're paying out more and more dividends. So it's a little bit of a give and take, right? Sometimes you may not get the increase in earnings from the share price, or you may even take losses in the share price as it goes down. But the idea is that this fund is paying out a healthy dividend, on a consistent basis to make it still attractive for you to hold on to it. And so this is the history of this particular fund's payouts. The most recent one they just paid out on July 3rd. It was almost 16 cents per share. So basically, if you had 100 shares of this fund, that'll be about $16 that you would have earned for the week, $15.74. So this is paid out pretty consistently, somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from $13 to $16. Sometimes it's up as high as $21. So this was part of the reason that I got involved with this fund, as well as it has a really high the market cap, which is basically showing $927 million. Basically, this means that there's a lot of people that are invested in this fund. So it's been going. It's very popular on investing platforms. So YieldMax is one of the funds that I got. Honestly, it's not paying out as much in dividends as some of the others, but this was my thinking behind the reason I first got involved. YieldMax is another one of the companies that are with this same YieldMax company that puts out these ETF funds. So YieldMax is another one of the funds that I own. And you'll see, just like YieldMax, this fund has taken a really sharp decline in its pricing over the last year, down 28%. So same thing, this one was up over $20 per share, and then over time it's gone down. And when I got involved, it was about maybe $15 or so. So again, I felt as though it was a good opportunity for me to buy in while it was already down, versus people that got in at the very beginning and had to take the ride all the way down with the price. Now, if you would see pretty much every stock chart around this time of the year, April of 2025, was when the announcement about tariffs going into effect, and it pretty much tanked every single stock in the stock market way down, and companies have been trying to climb back up ever since that time frame. So I got involved because I felt like the dip and the drop in pricing had already happened. So it felt like this would be a good time for me to purchase, 2 weeks ago, because the price has already taken its dip. And so if it goes back up, then I can ride the wave back up. Or if it stays the same, perfectly fine, as long as it's paying out a hefty, a decent dividend amount consistently. Again, this is another one of these funds that has a good amount of volume in it, $369 million. And the dividend payouts had been pretty consistent until I got involved. So I guess I was, the bad luck charm that caused the fund to drop. They only paid out 5.5 cents per share on this past payout date. So July 3rd, this one paid out only 5.5 cents, but it had been paying a pretty decent amount consistently for a little while. But you see, there have been some months that it was a little low. So I'm going to look, going back, here was another month that they only paid out 5 cents that I just saw. So yeah, so I'm going to reconsider if I'm going to hold on to this fund, YieldMax. I may give it another week to see if it's, bouncing back to the 15-16 cent range. If it's not, I may get rid of this one and dump the money into one of my other funds. Another fund with this same company that I have is ULTY. This is another very popular fund amongst YouTubers and investors. Same thing, you'll notice the pattern. with these funds over the last year. Price drop. So ULTY was way up here, $15, $14 or so, and it started dropping over time. Now, the difference with ULTY, what they did was they actually changed their strategy from being a monthly payer to being a weekly payer sometime around March. And after the dip, when the tariffs was announced, it's been pretty consistent around this $6.20, 30 cent range. Again, when I got involved, it was right around this same time. So I felt like, again, just like the others, I was able to get involved after taking a huge decline in pricing, and I can take advantage of the dividend payouts. Now, this one has been very consistent with the dividend payouts, and again, another highly involved fund with over 700 and almost $70 million of investments in this fund. And this one is paying out about 9 to 10 cents every week since it's been going into the weekly pay. And so 9 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but considering that the stock is only $6 and something per share, I felt as though I can load up on a bunch more shares of this. So this is one of the funds that I have the most in, and I can get a bunch of shares and be able to get the 9 to 10 cent a week on much more shares. So I loaded up on ULTY, and this is actually one of my favorites that I have in my portfolio. Now let's go to the one that's a monthly payer under the same YieldMax company, MSTY, MSTY. And this is the one that I just purchased in week 2. And this is the one that's a monthly payer. And if we look at MSTY, this one has had some pretty nice fluctuations over the last year, going way up, all the way up to $40 plus, and then dropping back way back down, all the way to $20 or so. And this is where I got involved, again, about 20 something dollars, a little over $20 per share. So again, feeling like it's a good time for me to start with this fund. Hopefully it's hit its low point now, and it'll stay around here and won't drop too much further. But again, if it stays consistently around this area, that's fine with me. My number one goal for these is not necessarily the price jumping back up. It's about getting the consistent dividend payouts. And this one has paid out some really hefty dividends over the years. This fund has over $5.1 billion invested. This is one of the more popular ones that you will see as far as high yield dividend ETFs. And this one has been paying out some pretty hefty amounts over the last year or so. $4, $3 a share, $2. And it's been kind of going down a little bit, which is, it's got some people not as high on MSTY as in the past. But I felt like, you know, this will be a good time for me to jump in while the price was where it's at, and right before this payout. So this one paid out $1 and about 24 cents per share. I bought 50 shares of MSTY for my very first time getting involved with this one. So again, I'll typically probably only make purchases for MSTY once a month instead of reinvesting once a week like I do with the others. Next, let's go into my GraniteShares company funds. We'll start with the first one, which is TSYY. This is the stock that I've put the most into, or the fund that I've put the most into, TSYY. And this one follows Tesla. And this is a GraniteShares company fund. And so same thing with this one. When it first launched, you know, the price was all the way up here like $25, and it's dropped. So when I got involved, it was about $10 or so. So I was able to load up on a bunch of shares. And this was the actually this is the one that I've got the most money into. The reason that I really like this one is because at the time, again, the price had already dropped, so I felt like it was a good time for me to get involved. And the dividend payout for this one was really good. This one, 26 million in cap, so not as big and not as it hasn't been around as long as some of those other funds that are in hundreds of millions and billions. But I like the dividends. So it was paying out some really high dividends for this $1.40, $1.30. But now that the price is, down where it's at now, 30 cent, 30 cent. And when I first got it week one, it was paying me about 30 cent a share. And this week it paid out 25 cent a share. So some of these have been down a little bit on this most recent payout. So you always want to keep in mind with these high yield dividend funds that the payout amounts do fluctuate, and so there can be ups and downs. So something that's attractive today may not be as attractive tomorrow. But this most recent payout for this week was 25 cents. So that'll come out to my account on this one. These pay out every Tuesday. The YieldMax funds pay out every Friday. Next one that I have with these guys, and these two are both very new, so it went against my strategy for all of the other funds of getting into these after the decline in price. So this one follows Nvidia stock, which is a tech company. And for this fund has only been around, when I got involved, it had only been around about 2 weeks. So it was very, very new. And when we look at the price of the fund, in this case, the price has gone up a little bit, but it's been consistently around the $25 range. But right now it's up to about $26. It just jumped while I was on this to 27. But it's jumped up to about $26. So I took a chance with this one because as you look at the rest, right, they'll start off here in like the 20s and drop all the way down to like the 12, 13, 15, $10 range. So I decided to take a chance with NVYY and the other fund that follows Bitcoin, because I felt like the dividend payout was worth taking the chance with the stock, because this one was paying out some huge dividends, 50 cents, 66 cents, 67 cents, 50, 59 cents on the week that I got in. So that was my first payout. And then this week it paid out almost 49 cents. So it's paying out some really high dividends overall based off compared to the price of the actual fund. So that's the reason I got involved with these. So we'll see over time if this, you see it's kind of creeping down. So we'll see if this continues to creep down. I didn't buy much of this, only about 20 shares of these two of the new ones. So we'll see how it goes. If it continues to pay out well, I may buy more and more. If it starts to decline in the price as well as the dividend payouts, then I'll likely just hold on to the 20 that I've got and keep reinvesting back into some of the other funds. And then last but not least, the last GraniteShares fund that I have, XBTY. This one follows Bitcoin. And again, this one started about, at the time that I got involved about 2 weeks ago. This one was only 2 weeks old. So this one, as well as the Nvidia fund, are both brand new. But this one, same thing, started out about $25 or so, crept up $26, and it's been kind of fluctuating around the $24, $25 range so far. And which is when I got involved, it was about $24 or so when I purchased. And again, exact same reasoning that I got into the Nvidia fund was why I got into this one, even though I'm taking a chance of potentially having that price to decline on me. But it was paying out some really hefty dividends, 62 cents, 60 cents, 50 cents, 45 cents. So just like the other ones, it's kind of trending down right now, so I'll keep an eye on it. But I didn't get too much. I just started with about 20 shares So I started about 20 shares of this one, about 20 shares of the Nvidia, and I loaded up on the Tesla. I loaded up on the UTLY, the ULTY. So those were the ones that I was the most high on, and now I'm involved as well as with my MSTY, which is the monthly pair. So 204 shares of ULTY, 1,200, almost $1,300 invested into that fund. 22 shares of YieldMax, 20 shares of YMAG. Again, these two, I'll check and see how these are doing and see if I'm going to hold on to it, especially the YMAG with that 5-cent dividend. Jumped into these two because of the really high dividend that they were paying out, but I just wanted to kind of test the waters on them. So 20 shares, 21 shares. So I didn't load up so much on these two. Grab 50 shares of MSTY because, again, this is a very popular fund, and I'm hoping to see, I want to see how it does, see if the prices get back to those higher dividend paying amounts. If it keeps trending down, I'll probably just hold on to where I'm at, but I got a whole month to see how this is doing before it's time for the next payout. So I wouldn't buy more shares of this until it's right before the next payout for next month in August. And then the Tesla shares, this was my biggest purchase. Again, I really liked the 30-cent payout, and at the price at the time it was about $10. So as we can see, this prices went down a little bit more than all of the rest as far as what I purchased it for to where it's at now. And the dividend amount went down slightly from 30 cent to 25 cent. So I have to keep an eye on this one to see if it's something I'll dump more into. As of right now, when I take my earnings for this next week, I'm actually going to put those more into ULTY, just because it's more consistent. And so I'll just keep an eye on this one a little bit to see how it's fluctuating from the ups and downs with the pricing. All right, guys. So that's pretty much about it for today. I just want to remind everybody to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you did, get some value out of this, follow along, subscribe, hit the notification button so you'll be alerted every time I'm dropping a new video. And I always like to leave you guys with a quote or something inspirational. And this is from the GOAT. Don't come at me about the LeBron James crap, okay? This is the GOAT. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. A lot of us throughout life, right, we've been trained, do not fail, right? Getting an F on your test is the worst thing you can do in school, right? And real, true winners and successful people, they understand that failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. You can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from your failures, and now you can see the things that you can overcome when you come out the other side of it. So Michael Jordan's quote, failed many, many times, became the greatest to ever do it. And so I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me on the channel today, and I'll see you on the next video. I will be dropping my week 2 results video pretty soon. Have a good day, guys.